This is the Amp Hour Podcast, recorded January 27th, 2016. Episode 284. An interview with Great Scott. Welcome to the Amp Hour. I'm Chris Gamble of Contextual Electronics.
And I'm Scott from the Great Scott YouTube channel.
Welcome all the way. We are even further apart than I expected to be. I'm all the way on the west coast of the U.S., and you are somewhere in Germany, right?
Yeah, it's Saxony.
Very cool. Very cool. So thank you. Thanks for being here. I actually had not heard about your YouTube channel until about 3 or 4 months ago.
Really?
Yeah, I started watching it, and I'm like, "What? How have I not ever heard of this?" You know, obviously I know Dave, I know Martin, but I started watching your videos, and like really good, like not even just beginner content. You've been doing some really advanced stuff lately. So where have you been?
I don't know. I started in October 2013.
Okay.
And in the beginning, it was the usual YouTube stuff. When you begin, nobody watches.
Right, exactly, yeah.
It's just the truth. Nobody watches, and just a small amount of people care. And over the year of 2014, I made 2 videos. One video every 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And I just continued that trend. And I think at the beginning of 2015, it just exploded.
Yeah.
I don't know why either. It just happened. It's not like I did anything special.
But who cares,
progressed
right?
that way.
Okay, more people watching. Great, that's awesome. Let's keep going here.
And I think in 2015 I started with 15,000 subscribers, and now I'm at 180,000, I think.
Oh my God.
That's not bad.
Okay, yes. I also hope to grow by the 10,000 or the 1,000% in a year. So
that would be awesome.
Yeah, that's great. So, what made you start in the first place? What's your background? Like, what made you start making these videos in the first place?
That's a long story.
Okay, now, we have at least an hour.
That should do.
Yeah.
I've always been a fan of YouTube because it's a great way for small people to bring ideas and to share stuff. But the problem in Germany is that much of the YouTube stuff is, let's say, it's for younger people.
Yeah. Okay.
It's mostly about vlogging, gaming, and all that kind of stuff that does not interest me. And I always loved watching Dave or Ben Heck or Afrotech Mod.
Yeah.
Also very good. But the problem was it was just not enough, you could say. So it was frustrating to see that no one else was trying to do something like that in this direction with electronics. And in October 2014, I wasn't an engineer yet. I actually just started. I started my job training in 2011, and I wasn't even finished with that. So I had just not much experience with electronics, but I want to create something that would entertain people, that would educate them as well, because I think the combination of entertainment and education is something very important. Because let's use an example from university. If there's a professor who is just plain boring, like you don't care for what he says and you don't remember the stuff he says.
Right.
And I try to do something different in my videos, trying to keep it fast-paced entertainment with a lot of practical examples and a lot of projects as well. And that's something many people like, apparently.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Yeah.
And then I started 2013. I did my first video about the LED color organ. I don't know if you've watched that.
I have. It had was it vodka bottles or some kind of bottles that lit up, right?
Yeah, yes. These were vodka bottles.
Yeah, right, exactly. College student, former college student, huh?
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah, it's okay.
No, it was the first bigger project I did by myself, completely by myself. And I thought it was pretty awesome because that's not something you can get that easily in the store. It's something you have to build because you can understand it that way and you can customize it in your own way.
Right.
And I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that kind of, well, I think something like that too, where, there's a lot of projects out there where people look at it and they say, I specifically want that thing, right? So like that's something where they might want that, to have around their apartment or something like that too. And then the fact that you can't get it, like you said, you can't get it in the store, that will drive people, and that it's a good beginner project. I think a lot of those things that is really confluence. And in the meantime, they're also, it's like, oh, hey, by the way, you've been learning electronics. Haha, I fooled you.
That's the idea, I guess.
Yeah. That's great, though. So I apologize. I don't remember the name, but could you just clue me into some of the education stuff in Germany? I know that there was some word for like apprenticeship style in Germany that I really got into, and I forget the name of it. I remember tweeting about it, but is it
apprenticeship?
Yeah, so I forget that there was a German word for it though, but it
doesn't ring a bell.
Well, no, it's like the practical plus the education stuff together. That's really what it is. So it's like you're doing on the job training plus school and kind of back and forth stuff.
You mean working plus university, or just school for a job?
I think it was somewhere in between those two, even.
Man, that's hard.
Yeah, I know, right? But there are multiple types, right? There's multiple levels of. I'm trying to find it now on my Twitter feed. This is truly hopeless on my searching ability, but.
No, I can tell you anyway.
Okay,
so,
sure.
The way it goes after school, you can either do eine Ausbildung. Mm-hmm. That's the word in German. It means you go to a company and they hire you with a very low budget, I would say, and you learn the job while working. And then sometimes you go to school, sometimes you work, and that repeats all the way, I think, for 2 or 3 years. And then you have mastered, I would say, the job.
Okay. The practical side of it, you mean, like, or the whole thing?
The whole thing. So you've got the theory and the practical thing.
Gotcha.
And then other companies can hire you in this position, or you continue in the company however you want. That's called the Ausbildung. And the other way to go in Germany is das Studium. So it's like university. I think something like a college. We don't have something like a college.
Okay.
I think in the USA it's like school, then you go to college, and then you specialize. Or am I wrong?
No, that's actually usually right. I think bachelor's degree is kind of the base knowledge, and then master's degree might start to specialize you more, or you kind of learn more on the job when you start working. That's kind of how I usually look at it. So,
okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool though.
Yeah, that's the second way, and there's the third way, which I did.
Okay.
It's a combination of both. It's like a company hires you, and you learn the job. I learned the job of an electrician technician, I think it's in English. And while learning this job, and again switching between theory and practical, you also go to university, and there I got my bachelor of engineering in power engineering. Yes.
Oh, very cool. So like the higher power design type stuff?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's mostly about power grids, motors, power electronics.
Very cool. Yeah, no, that's
all the good stuff.
And I think, that kind of, obviously, so I have a very strong interest in the apprentice side of thing because of my course, but I think that the German model, like that really resonated with me. And I think it was I'm going to butcher this word, the eine, how do you say it? Eine Belong?
The Ausbildung.
Yeah, that one. I think that's the word that I looked up. So I will verify that. And I think that was the wiki page that I remember looking at Wikipedia. That's about it. So yeah, very cool though. And so, Yeah, and so that kind of tie into practical. It seems like that is also translated into your videos, that you've been able to, that you've been delivering a lot of this stuff. How much of it is you kind of learning on your own when you're starting a project? I mean, how do you pick your projects and then start digging into it?
So I think lots of the projects are new stuff to me. I think because power electronics, like power grids and lots of motor stuff and calculations which are important for power distributors, are not really a good subject for such videos where you build stuff. So in many cases I learn much. I would say 60% I learned new stuff all by myself, just digging in to the material, what is available online, because we can practically learn everything online nowadays.
Yep.
And I think when it's about Arduino or programming or RF stuff, which I did lately, and all that small electronic stuff, that was not really what I learned, but everything with electronics is just interesting.
Right.
And it's what keeps me going.
Right, you keep finding the Wikipedia hole, right, where you just keep going further and further deep and finding new things.
Maybe not Wikipedia, because it's not the best source, I would say.
That's true.
We learned that in school only. In Germany, when you have Wikipedia in your source, like you do a presentation and you go through the source list, that's always a minus point for you when you've got Wikipedia there.
That's right. Yep. Yeah. No. I don't get that either, too, because like a lot of times it's just a list of other sources. But yeah, whatever. I guess that's the academic side of things as well.
Yeah.
So how are you queuing up new projects? How are you figuring out what you want to build next? Do you have kind of just a list that you go down, or are you going off of recommendations from your audience, or what makes you want to build the next thing?
Well, most of the time it's like I want to have something on my own, like I did lately with the electric longboard.
Oh, yeah.
That's something I saw, because in the USA it's something much bigger. There's a industry there, I would say, for stuff like that, because it's legal. In Germany, it's not legal. So many people don't use something like that. And no, the other way around. Not many people use something like that. It's very rare. And you cannot buy it in Germany, so I wanted to build it. That's
so you
can't
you can't even import one? Is that kind of? I mean, obviously, I totally agree with building it, but like, is it actually illegal to even buy in Germany?
You can buy it, I think, but you can't ride the streets.
Okay, yeah.
The police will stop you, and then
really,
it's not so nice. Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. I actually don't do that because I don't want to crack my head open. That's a personal thing where I can't ride skateboards, but that was a great build too, because I didn't, I remember you and I were, emailing a little bit before you had done it, and you had said you wanted to finish that video first. And so I was watching it very intently, and I didn't even think about all the mechanical aspects of it. You were drilling out, you were mounting all of the gears and everything to the back wheel. Can you just talk about some of the challenges with that?
Well, just like you said, the mechanical parts are not really my specialty as well. So it was a lot to learn. I think I did post-production, so just thinking about what I want to do, just doing some sketches, a couple of schematics, that took easily like 10 to 20 hours.
Oh, wow.
And then I just started doing some prototypes, figuring out how it would work the best. And yeah, that's the end design I came up with. It's still not the best. I agree with that totally, because when you try to prototype something, you don't have practical experience. So I wrote it the other day, and then I noticed, okay, maybe I should have that in another way or that in another way.
Right. Yeah, and because you have that enclosure on the bottom to hold the batteries and the drivers and stuff like that, and that would definitely impede how you're moving stuff. Like stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe for future improvement, I wanted to include a better mount, the adapter with the motor and the wheel. That's not so good because it's only held by one screw, and the screw goes left and right sometimes because it's not that good fixed, so that needs to be improved. But other than that, it's decent. It works.
Yeah,
and that's the point.
And that's the idea behind prototyping too, right? I mean, you're able to kind of get towards a lot of these other. You could dream all day on what should be on a skateboard, an electric longboard, but until you're on one riding it and improving it, you're never gonna actually experience the things that make that great product, right? I mean, that's
yes.
Did you remind me how do you control it? Is it a hand controller?
I saw people using Bluetooth with the smartphone, but I think that's not really the best idea, because when you're riding a longboard and let's say it's going 30 kilometer per hour and you fall and you've got your smartphone in your hand, I didn't like that idea.
Right.
So I was using from the Wii remote the nunchuck. It's this. I don't know if you know it.
Yeah. It plugs. So there's the main controller, and then there's a secondary one with like a little like an analog joystick, right?
Right. And I was using that joystick, basically just cracking it open and then putting a small tiny 85 inside with a RF transmitter. And I was using both buttons. One button was a safety trigger, like if you don't push it, you cannot go with it. It doesn't accelerate. And the other was a cruise control, which actually was an idea from a friend, which was the best idea he ever gave me for a project, because it's really comfortable. You've got your perfect speed, and then you press the cruise control, and it stays at that speed.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
Yeah, you wouldn't. I've actually never seen that on any of the longboards I've seen. I
think that's the first one.
Yeah, I wonder if they do that because they want to make sure that if you fall off, the thing will stop running, kind of thing. But if you know what it's going on there, that's a great idea, because then you don't have to hold it down and keep controlling it. You can actually concentrate on not crashing into things like I would need to do.
Well, that's your thing,
right? Of course, yeah. No, that's great though. So we were also talking. So speaking about the mechanical side of things as well. Before the show, we were talking a little bit about the fact that you're in an apartment and just kind of the kind of access to equipment, and the fact that there are space restrictions, stuff like that. So what are some of the challenges there? I mean, what did you borrow equipment for some of the mechanical side of things, or are you outgrowing your current lab? How's that going?
I'm not borrowing anything. It's like pretty much I own my apartment is my own stuff. There was the X-Carve you saw in the video.
Yeah, right.
That's something Inventables is the company, I think.
Yeah, out of Chicago. Yep.
Yep, they offered me this for a small review or a project with it, because they want to expand their business, I guess, and want to promote their product.
Yep.
So that was really nice of them. I could use that in the video, but all the other stuff also all bought by myself, so nothing borrowed. And it's slowly getting crowded in here, because you know how it is, I think.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of stuff like the bench power supply, oscilloscopes, it's not mainly that takes a lot of space. It's all the tools you need. Like you need that saw, then you need another saw, then you need screwdrivers, tons of them,
right,
and all that stuff.
Right, and I think just even, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm extremely messy, so it just, the sprawl happens real fast. So even if you had a perfectly, a spot for everything, when you start getting in the thick of a project and you have all your tools out and actually using them, then it becomes super cluttered. So that's kind of that's always my challenge.
That feeling.
Yeah, right. It's just like you need, even if you have a great organization system, it's only when everything's done and cleaned up that really helps. So that's kind of difficult. What about in Germany? I mean, so obviously, I think I've mentioned before, obviously Dave's not here because the time difference is just crazy between the States and Europe and Australia and stuff.
I think it's 5 a.m.
Yeah, probably.
At Dave's place.
Yeah, I think that's right, yeah. So what I'm trying to get to, though, is we don't talk to a lot of guests from Europe very often, but what is the scene like in terms of getting access to components, equipment. I mean, board houses. What are some of your resources in Germany or just Europe more broadly?
Well, it's not that big. I think in the US there is a Radio Shack. Is that still?
No, they're kind of going down the tubes in terms of yeah.
Well, that's not nice.
No, they kind of that's their management, but yeah, we've talked about that a couple times. They used to be for sure in a couple years ago they were the main option, but I think there's a increasingly shrinking set of places you can buy components and gear and stuff.
Like how many on your side?
I don't even know. Like, so in Cleveland, where I live most of the time, there's a surplus store, so you can go buy old stuff. There are one or two Radio Shacks left, but they're pretty gutted. And then I think that's it. I guess Micro Center's like a computer store, so you could go buy like Arduinos, like SparkFun stuff's there, Adafruit stuff. They actually have it on site, but it's still not. You're not buying resistors and capacitors and stuff like that. So
no passive stuff.
Yeah,
okay.
Do you have stores that actually still sell that stuff? I mean, is that still a thing?
Yeah, it's rare, like on your side, but there's one store which is called Conrad Electronics.
Yeah, they had a bunch of stuff. When I was at Electronica, I saw a bunch of stuff by Conrad.
Yeah, Conrad is the biggest, and they even have in the basement. They still have like an electronics corner, I would say. There are like 2 or 3 employees who just take your order. Like you want a resistor, you go there. Like, okay, I need that resistor, quarter watts, 1 kilo ohm, and they get it for you. It's really nice, actually.
Actually, I think Dave has that. So I know that he's talked about there's like a pickup desk for Element 14 or Newark. So I think there are still some of those things, but at least where I live, they don't have that. And maybe there's some around, or maybe Jameco does that out here in California. It's definitely going away.
But I think Conrad, like you would say it in German.
Okay, yeah.
It's pretty certain that they're gonna stay because their main focus is not the small passive component stuff that I need. It's more about they also have RC, they have home automation, they've got lights, they got everything you need. It's like a small home improvement store, but more specialized on electronics. So I think they're doing pretty good with their business. I think they're gonna stay, but in the end, I don't go too often there,
right? Because
it's just overpriced.
Right. As any on-site type of thing would definitely be. Paying a premium for being handed a resistor.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
But there are other kinds of stores, like online stores. That's the main thing, actually, with my orders. I don't order from German stores. I always go to eBay and get it all from China. It's the cheapest variation, and I've never had any problems. No parts were ever damaged. They all did what they were supposed to do. So I'm happy with it. I'm gonna continue doing it like that, and I think there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, and I think that also, enables you to keep doing more projects. Just keeping costs down will just enable future projects too. So, I've actually never bought components off eBay. I don't know why, but I know that like people talk about like they just buy like, a bag of 1,000 connectors or something. And it's like, I should of course do that, But then I kind of get in I'm so used to from my jobs in the past, I'm just like, DigiKey, whatever. I pay a little bit more. Who cares? But it seems like, people who are outfitting their labs or, they're going to AliExpress, they're going to eBay, stuff like that. And and like you said, it's not necessarily bad components. They're probably some of the same ones that are stocked in regular distributors, but it's just, it's there's maybe a little bit more risk, but most of the time it works out. So that's good. What about like board houses? I mean, so I've talked to a couple people in Germany and surrounding countries and stuff, and it seems like are you doing printed circuit boards mostly, or I noticed you did a lot of perf board stuff.
Yeah, perf board mostly.
Okay.
I did a printed circuit board not too long ago for my 7-segment display, which connects to the internet, grabs a bit of data, what you want, and then displace it. I did a printed circuit board there, but it was a sponsored video. So the company came to me, and it was just an opportunity for me to do something like that. I'm not an expert when it comes to designing PCBs. I think everybody can see that when they have a look at the video and at the design, because many people also said so in the comments.
Don't listen to those guys. Come on.
Well, I agree in some things, like the edges shouldn't have been too sharp. I did 9-degree edges.
Yeah, for the traces and stuff.
Yeah, that was apparently a big mistake. And otherwise, I didn't look out for the width of the traces because it was just a small project. It wasn't something I want to produce for other people or something like that.
Right.
It's just for me in the end, and that's good enough, I think.
That's always the problem with kind of being, producing in the spotlight too. You get all these kind of, the phrase here is armchair quarterbacks. So like people who love coaching from sitting around, but it's like you're putting yourself out there and they can go take a leap.
It's always easy to say something
exactly, yeah,
mean to someone when you're not known.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's that is an unfortunate side effect, but we keep doing it, putting ourselves out there. So
that's YouTube.
Yeah, that is YouTube. That is goes with the territory. But yeah, board houses. I know some people that are doing like hobby style projects still. That like, I have one friend in Germany. He said he even gets Oshpark boards pretty quickly. Like obviously there's still a wait, and I think there's a couple of board sharing services in Europe as well, but usually the costs are a little bit higher and there's not as much volume. But there's I think, is it Ragworm? I think is one of them. I'll look. I'll put them in the show notes. I think there's a couple others.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't used them, but I'm kind of dependent on circuit board, on PCBs. I actually can't do what you do. So one thing that someone mentioned to me is they said, you got to check out this Great Scott channel because of the perf board stuff. So
that's actually what I learned in my job.
Really?
Like,
okay. So what about it?
Is number one.
Just for the ease of prototyping, or because of current, or what about it? In the let's say territory I would work in, if I would do my job, what I learned, it's more like you're in industries. Like there are dozens of machines, and maybe one machine have a problem with, I don't know, something exploded, something doesn't work. That'll happen. Yeah,
you're the guy then who tests all the things, and the solutions have to come very quickly because production is not going to stop because of this one machine. It has to go on, and that's the moment you bring out the perf board and maybe you solder something to it. Then 2 wires go to the main PCB, and then it does the job again. It's something like that. Right.
So the perf board is is the electronics version of duct tape. Is that right?
Yeah, you could say so. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. No, but you do some really, some intricate stuff too. I think it was you said you'd done some RF videos, right? Was it the FM transmitter or something like that? I remember seeing something where you did a bunch of perf board stuff that was really quite impressive.
It was an FM transmitter I did not too long ago, but it's not that difficult, perf board. It's just like you solder there. Okay, with RF you have to be careful a bit that you don't bring too much interference into the circuit. But other than that, you just connect the parts. You have to have a close eye on not bridging anything out. And yeah, it was something my teacher at the job actually took very seriously. Like, she had a magnification glass, and she just looked super carefully that everything was isolated from each other. And it's just something I learned along the way. So for me, it's not a problem to do on the videos. For others, I don't know. It's just practice in the end, and soldering is not that hard.
What about the thing that, and I agree that like once you get good at soldering and you know how to drag between and everything, that's good. But what about the actual mapping out? Do you do that beforehand, like just on paper, or Because I think that's one thing that I've heard from people in the past too, is like it's the kind of being able to see the connections in before mapping it out, that kind of thing.
Well, sometimes, like, I think I did it. No, I didn't even do it for. I did RGB LED cube a while ago. That was also not mapped, but I wished I did at some point.
Yeah.
That would have been good, but most of the time, like, mapping is good for strip boards. Like, you have your copper strips. That's pretty easy.
Right.
I always use the program Lochmaster. Are you familiar with it?
No. It's
pretty unknown. I notice it also in the comment section that nobody knows it, and I always say I use it. Apparently, I do spread it quite a lot. It's a pretty good program, especially with strip boards. I can do that.
Will this take like a schematic that you drew and then help you kind of map it onto the strip board? Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, that's the idea. You put your components in, and then your bridge wire, and all the interruptions you need to make in the copper, and then you can print it out, put it beside you, and then build it after this example. I think I did it for the audio amplifier I put in my bathroom.
Okay.
There I did it.
Okay.
And it was a good idea.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, and I think there's, I know that Fritzing does that. It helps you with I think some of those. When you say strip board, do you mean like a breadboard where it's like the plug-in style, or are you talking about strip board like where it's already got the copper on the back plate side of
the second variation with the copper on the back.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So Fritzing I've seen for the actual breadboarding before, but I haven't heard of these other ones. I'll have to check those out. That's pretty interesting. Oh, cool. That's good. I have a question that's a little bit. Maybe I should have asked it first. Why don't you make your videos in German? I mean, do you do videos in German on maybe a different channel? Or?
No.
Why not?
German at all.
Really? I heard you say at the beginning you talked about the YouTube there is maybe a little bit different on what the types of videos people are looking for. But why not German?
I don't know. Like there is, I think, one other German YouTuber who does electronics, who is interesting. He's called Kondensatorschaden.
Oh my goodness!
If I would translate it, it's like a capacitor. I don't have the second word, but it's something with capacitor. And he does pretty good stuff. He does projects and also some basic stuff like I do with electronics basics. But he doesn't get much attention, I would say. Like Germany isn't the place where you put electronics videos out there and many people watch it. It's just like it's dominated by another field, like I already said, like gaming, vlogging, all that stuff that I don't really care about.
Yeah.
And I thought English is more known, of course. It's a world language in the end. And it's always also a nice language. And
it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
It's okay.
It's easy to understand and speak. Well, not right now, maybe.
No,
when you
come
hear
on,
me speaking.
Man. No, you're great. Come on, you're good.
Well, life is always something. It's a little bit different than writing a script and then doing the voiceover, but it's okay.
I loved your video where you're talking about your process, and then it was like you like looking. What was the word you were looking up? Like not microcontroller. It was something like that.
No, it's always the same because it was centimeters.
Centimeters. That's it. Yeah.
I always say it with a Z in the beginning. Like the comments say so. Yeah. And it's always the same when I put this one word in the video, everybody comments centimeter with a Z. And I think it's a running gag at this time.
That's good. Yeah.
But,
no, so that's really interesting too about so I used to work for ABB and I had a bunch of coworkers in Germany as well. And it seems like there's an interesting culture. Like every country, it seems like has different cultures around the electronics industry as well. And I think there's a lot of strong talent in Germany, of course. but I think it's very serious around electronics. It's in industry. It's these very strong personalities working on stuff. There's a lot of veterans there. So is there a difference in, like, do you find a lot of hobby type stuff, hobby and kind of people trying stuff on their own in Germany in general? Or I guess the question would be, do you find community around Germany? Do you have local meetups, and do you meet people that are doing similar things?
With electronics?
Yes, correct.
Well, a good question. Mm-hmm. I would say electronics is not that big of a field when it comes to what you do in your free time, I would say.
Okay.
But like when you go to university and you learn electronics, there are tons of people who are in this electronics community fields area, however you want to call it. And you always find people there who are interested in this and want to talk about it, share experiences, all that good stuff.
Yeah, because I think, so one thing that I'm not surprised by, but one thing I learned was that, like, people started talking about hacker spaces back in 2000, 9, 10, 11, whatever. And those really started getting bigger in the US, but there was a much bigger thing with, like, there's hacker spaces in Germany, and there's the Chaos Camp, and like all of that stuff. It really was brought over from Germany and a lot of the people that were doing this kind of stuff in Europe. And I was surprised by that. I'm not surprised. I was interested by that because just that culture was there already. So I was wondering if you kind of had seen that, or if maybe it's different areas of Germany.
I think it's different areas of Germany. Now, I've heard of a hackerspace. It was in Berlin. I found, like, it was a person in the comment section who was like, he had a question and I answered, and then he said, like, oh, that's cool. Maybe you're near Berlin, then you can come to the hackerspace and, talk a bit with our people. Something like that does exist, but really clearly not in my area, because I've never heard of it here.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, and I've always wanted to go to the Chaos Communication. I think it's Congress. I forget I know it's always in Germany, but it's
Chaos. What is it again?
So Chaos Communication. There's camp and Congress. So one is like where they go and hack in field, and like basically while camping. And the other one though is they just had it back in late December.
Was it?
But the problem is it's always right around Christmas. So it's like, for me traveling, I'm usually with family around Christmas, and then I think it's right before New Year's. So it'd be like Christmas happens and I'd have to fly to Germany. So that would be the tough part.
Okay. So. Yeah, I think I know what you mean. That's I think I read about it that they cracked the PS4 security system. Was that something like that?
Oh, maybe, yeah.
yeah. They booted Linux. Well, it was awesome.
Yeah,
I saw it.
Yeah, so it was in. So I'm just looking up on Twitter now. It was in Hamburg on December 27th to 30th, and there was a bunch of talks that were all released as well, and that's kind of how I really saw it. But yeah, they were doing there's some crazy stuff there, and it seems like there are pockets around Germany. So I was just kind of wondering if you'd seen that kind of stuff. I'm sure it's very location dependent as well.
Yeah, that's the thing, I think.
Yeah. Cool. What about your community? So I mean, obviously, any YouTube channel kind of has its own community spring up around it. Do you find who are the people that you're usually interacting with within your community? Are they beginners, intermediate, advanced? What kind of level?
Mostly beginners. Like comment section is, I think, always a beginner, because advanced. Don't really have that much questions about the video, because most of the time I do the basic stuff. And on Facebook, I also get a lot of questions from viewers about beginner stuff, like, I want to do that, can you help me? And I think I love to read, I love to communicate with viewers, like what they're working on, and where they have problems, they always tell me suggestions what I should build next. I always put that on my very, very long to-do list.
Increasingly long list, yeah.
Yeah, it's never ending.
Right.
And it's great, but the problem is, I think I have over 1 million views per month, and the questions just keep coming all the time. And most of the time I just have to say, I'm sorry, I can't help you with your project, because it's not just a simple question like, hey, what is that resistor value? It's like, I don't know how this works, then how do I do this and this and this? And I'm just sitting there like, I cannot explain everything to you because I don't have time to do other things as well.
Right.
No, it's not that great, but yeah, if a viewer wants to communicate on what they're working on or what I should do next, I definitely also answer a lot of comments. I try to do that. I know many YouTubers don't do that nowadays, which is a pity, because most of the comments I get are still very nice. It just shows that people are interested in the video and just want to know more, or sometimes they don't understand something. That's also not a problem. I always answer. But other YouTubers just ignore them, because the comment section is just... I don't know if Dave ever talked about something like that, but sometimes there's a lot of trash in the comment section.
Yes, I think we've all seen that one time or another. Yeah.
And especially when I did the longboard video, part 1, a lot of people just jumped on the hate train, because I split the video in 3 parts. And many people said... they didn't like the 3-part structure, or basically just splitting a project in between, because it takes time from them. But the problem just for me is I put so much time in one video, and I do videos every week.
Right.
Weekly uploads every Sunday, 5 p.m. at my time. And it's just not possible to do one big project in one video. I mean, for the longboard, it might have taken 25 minutes for one complete video, and I split it into 4.5 minutes and then 2 9-minute parts.
Wow.
It was a lot of work, but that's the only time I think there was, I would say, trash, because it was getting ridiculous at some point, and the argumentation of some viewers is just...
Right. Oh, yeah.
Let's not talk about that.
You can't please everybody, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I understand big YouTubers who then say, I don't care about the comments anymore. I don't answer anyone. I don't read it, because sometimes it just drags you down and you just lose your motivation. You don't want to continue.
Yeah.
And yeah, just at one time I had this problem. The next video, everybody was again happy about it, because in the beginning you can see that it's that much work with the longboard, and then the part 2 actually shows what goes into the mechanical part, and it was a ton of work. But
it was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah, I like my community. I talk to them whenever I can, but yeah.
It's
a
tough.
good exchange.
It's tough to keep. Yeah, no, the motivation, it can play with the emotions a little bit, right? I'm sure if Dave were here right now, he would highly promote starting a forum. And I think that
I thought about that. Yeah.
I think it's good. I mean, it's tough too. Like, it's I think it's interesting because I watch a lot of people on YouTube as well. And it's this interesting dynamic, it's like where you kind of feel like you start to get to know someone, right? And it's even to the point where, like, I've seen someone at a conference before, and I walk up and I'm like, oh, hey, how you doing? It feels like you know this person, and then they're looking at you like,
who are you?
Yeah, what? This is weird. And one or two people have said that to me, where they're like, oh yeah, I listen. You're in my head sometimes, and I'm like, that's kind of weird, but I understand it as well, because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and
it's a compliment.
Yeah, right. I hope, yes. But yeah, no, it is tough, because it's kind of this one-to-many kind of thing. It's where, you said 180,000 people, like that quickly becomes, even 20 people can become untenable. You can only answer so many questions. So the forum kind of helps it become peer-to-peer then. One person helping another, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I thought about that because first off, it puts away all the trash comments in the end, because when you go to a forum, you're interested in this stuff and you want help, or you just want to get into the project. And I think a forum could also offer something like a project post, and then maybe other people say what they experienced, and from their side solutions that maybe I didn't even think of. So I think the forum would be a big step in my direction. I will try to do that in 2016, but again, it's I want to do weekly videos, and that I also do university along the way. I do my Master of Science in Electrical Power Engineering.
Dang.
Yeah, it's a lot to put up with.
Sleep at all, or no?
No, I try.
That's a lot of work, man. That's crazy. That's great. So let's talk about that. Obviously, that's working towards your future. I mean, you see a future where is your future designing power systems, or is it being a full-time YouTuber, a la Dave?
I obviously really don't know. It's hard to say. Like, it's like this. I did my duales Studium. Like I already said, like the combination of
this spelling is going to kill me on this episode. I mean, look a lot of stuff up. So, is it like dual school? That's kind of like what it sounded like.
Duals. You could say it like this. Yes, dual school, like university and learning the job with a company.
Yeah.
And the problem was, I was almost done with university, so my Bachelor of Engineering. And then was the question like, do I want to continue in this company, or do I want to do something on my own? Yeah. And I would have loved to continue in the company, but the problem was the job offering was not really what I wanted. Like, it was all just okay. As an engineer, you also are in an office very often,
right?
But
yes.
The jobs which were offered were just office jobs where you do things that most of the time don't have much to do with electrical engineering. So I said, well, I make a bit of money through YouTube and my Patreon supporters and my Amazon links and eBay links. Like, it's all a bit of money I can use to keep myself alive in the end.
Yeah,
and
right.
I wanted to continue doing YouTube, and but I thought, no, I still think that YouTube alone, it's not. Many people think that it's making tons of money doing YouTube, but I think every creator knows how hard it is to actually make a bit of money with YouTube.
Right.
So it's not that much that I would say, okay, it's as much as I would do with an engineering job in a company, let's say. So I'm not sure how I will continue. I do my masters of science for the moment. I just started. There are actually exams coming up.
No,
it's terrible. And
that was my least favorite time.
And that goes. It ends in summer 2017. My masters.
Yeah,
and I don't know how it goes on. Like, the problem is, even if YouTube makes enough money that I would say, okay, it's just as much as I would get as a normal engineer, because in the end I don't learn all this stuff and then get paid almost nothing. That's not the point of learning all this stuff and using it.
Right.
I would consider becoming a full-time YouTuber, I would say. But problem is, and I've heard that from a lot of people who are doing university jobs, the problem is that after 5 years, you're pretty much become unattractive for the industry, because you've worked so much isolated on all this scientific stuff, on the university type of things. And at my type, I think YouTube thing, I don't even know how a company would react if I say I did
be like, what am I looking at here? Right.
I did 5 years YouTube.
Yeah.
That's not a good starting point, I think, in such a conversation with them. But I don't know.
Which is crazy too, because you'd think it'd be like, you can see exactly the work that I just did, right? It's like you could see all of my mistakes, all of the things I did well, how I worked through problems. Like that is one of the best parts about it, is that like you're showing off the learning process. That's what people relate to as well. So yeah, that's a very interesting. I think it's good to keep going through the school thing, because from my own personal experience, I know I will never, ever, ever go back. I did a bachelor's and then I went to work, and I'm just like, there's no point in it for me. And because, like you see in your own program, as you're doing this stuff, you're going to have to teach everything to yourself pretty much anyways. Even a master's degree, you're ended up a lot of times, you're teaching yourself. You're presented with more difficult problems, and you may be given advanced instruction on certain things, but the rest of the time, it's like if you're doing any research, you're off doing that on your own either way. So that's it's a fun challenge. So it's smart to keep going through it, I think.
Yeah, I've like you already said, I think it's good to do all the educational stuff when you're young, I would say. Like, I'm only 23 years old now doing my master, so I did school, then job, then bachelor, then now master, because once you start doing a job and getting the paycheck in the end, it's always hard to go back, and then trying to live with some small jobs you do along the way, university. So I think it's a good way. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, no, and I think the being younger part as well. I think this is something that I talk to people that I've mentored or talked to in the past or tried to advise on career stuff in engineering. So the other thing that's interesting is I think about when I was 23. I was like, I didn't have a house. I wasn't. I really didn't. I didn't care about my car or anything like that. Just standard of living type stuff. And I'm channeling Dave here. I know Dave would say the same, where it's like if you keep your expenses low, then you have freedom on a lot of fronts, right? And I think that oftentimes just people that are getting started have that anyways. Like when I think about coming out of school, I wasn't eating ramen, but I wasn't eating steak every night, like
I know the feeling.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's just you're used to a lower standard of living, and that's a good thing. So that's a good time to really explore and try a lot of things and keep going with education, because there's less family obligations, stuff like that too. So yeah, that's good. I wanted to talk a little bit about your. I saw you just released this brushless DC motors thing, so I actually haven't watched the video yet, but I really like that you do a lot of these basics videos. What are some of the topics that you see requested most often? What do you think are some of the toughest concepts for people to learn when they're getting started?
Ooh, that's a good question. Oh, it's a hard question.
Finally, a hard question, right?
The hardest thing for people to learn. What I see often, very often, but I think Afrotech did a brilliant video about it. It's not the amps that kills you, it's the volts.
Right.
That's always funny.
Oh, I think it's the other way around, isn't it? Didn't you say it's not the volts, it's the amps? Which one is it?
It's not the...
Yeah, it's the amps that kill you, isn't it? Like the actual amount of current flowing through you.
Correct. It's not the volts, it's the amps, yeah.
Right.
But in the end, it's both combined.
Of course, right. It's the watts.
It's the watts in the end.
Yeah, right. Yeah, as power engineers would know that kind of things too, right?
Yeah. But other than that, the hardest thing, I think, I could only say a misconception many people have nowadays, I think. It's like, I read it in the comments all the time. I'm just getting started with electronics and I have an Arduino. Like Arduino as the starting point, I don't know.
You don't like that? Interesting.
Not really. Like, I started with analog circuits, something like op amps, like transistors, and all that stuff. I learned it through my job as well. And I think that's a very good starting point, because you just get to know like how voltage and current behave with resistance, and then you put your passive components, transistors, diodes, all that stuff into there, and you just know how this works. And I think this should come first before an Arduino, because with an Arduino, you may have the option to switch things on and off, like high-low, and put things together, like getting shields, putting Wi-Fi in it, on it, and then programming it to grab data from the internet. But in the end, it's not like you learned electronics. You learned how to put two things together and use an example code.
Yeah,
that's not really electronics.
Right.
That's a misconception I always hear. I don't really like it, but in the end, if Arduino is interesting and gets people into electronics, like maybe if they are done with their small example project, they think, okay, now I want to light up a LED, I want to amplify something, and maybe then they get into the analog stuff, I would say.
Right.
So Arduino, not the best starting point, but at least it's a starting point.
Right. It kind of gets that quick hit of dopamine, and you get like a little bit of success. So you want to keep pushing through when you get to the tough stuff in op amps and things like that. So when someone comes up to you and asks you, then, okay, I want to start with the analog side of things, what's the project of your videos even? What's the project you tell them to go with first?
I think I didn't make an exclusive video for that yet, actually.
We have a new idea.
It was the 555 timer. It's classic. Like,
of
that's
course.
The first IC I ever did a circuit booth, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's good. So you think using that though to get started and get things blinking, so you still get those. Yeah. You get some kind of output there. Did you ever see? Do you know I ran a 555 timer contest many years ago? A
contest?
Yeah, it was called the 555 timer contest. And
no.
Yeah, it was me and Jerry, and Dave judged it, and there was a bunch of stuff. The site is down now, but the amazing thing is the guy that won it, Tom Circuit. I forget his full name, but his handle is Tom Circuit. He did 555 for like all these different types of like servos and actuators and stuff like that, and he made probably 25 circuits. The video is still up. It is amazing, just like showing all of the different ways that he was using the 555 to actuate things. Okay. It was so awesome. So
it sounds awesome, yeah.
I'll send you that link after this. It was so much fun just to see all the different ways that he was using it to interact. Because he uses those, the flexible resistor strips as well, like the bend sensors.
Mm-hmm.
So he used that as the input to the trigger circuit, basically, and that basically changes the timer, and then he could drive a servo based on that. It's like a linear acceleration type thing. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it was really awesome. So yeah, but that is a great, and obviously that's a lot of. Did you start with the MIMS books or just more on the from the university side of things?
Well, I think it was on the university side.
Okay, right.
That brought me into it.
A lot of people in the past have always, we ask people this question a lot, and a lot of them say, "Oh, the Forrest Mims books, kind of the Radio Shack kind of stuff got me into it." So,
I started electronics actually very late. Mm-hmm. I wasn't really aware of it because you already said there were hacker spaces in Germany. Like, I didn't even know that exist, and so I pretty much had no big interest in electronics until I was 18 years old. So only 5 years ago.
Yeah, I was the exact same. Actually,
I was okay. I applied for a company where I also did my duales studium. And that was actually the first time where I saw that. Like, they wanted me to do a small, like, it's called a assessment center. You go there, and then all your day you do a couple of different tasks, so they see what you can do and whether you are suitable for the job in the end. And there I was supposed to solder a small tester, an LED tester, I think. It was it was basically a small strip board with a battery, and then you've got an interruption which you close with a wire, and then an LED lights up. It's like super simple if I think about it now. But back then it was the first time soldering. Oh my god, it was really hard.
Right, exactly. No, exactly. And then it seems like, and you think about it when beginners are coming in, And that is like the first mountain to climb. And then, especially with the internet, you can see how much other stuff there is. And it's so easy to just say, I can't do any of this stuff. But ultimately, it comes down to, it's like, well, the first step is to solder that LED tester, right? That's the way everyone starts there. And so it's, there's a couple shows ago, we were talking about kind of mindset of, beginners and just people getting into electronics. And it's tough, it's tough to keep motivated and to find projects that are, make people successful, things like that. It can be very, very frustrating. So,
definitely.
It's good that program though. So so you walked in, you had a rough first day.
I had no idea. But I got the job.
That's great. So based on just your willingness to try it and everything like that?
Well, it actually worked in the end.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I think you had the knack, right? You had the natural ability somewhere in there.
You could say so.
Yeah, that's great. That's really cool. Yeah, I've struggled with that in the past. Obviously, I talked to Dave a lot, and Dave talks about how he did it from being very young. He was working electronics for a long time. Mm-hmm. I think, though, a lot of people start at the age we started. It's just, I had other interests, and then I started thinking about what I wanted to do. I was really into physics in high school. I wanted to do the practical application of physics, and electronics seemed like the best way forward. And I think that it's, well, obviously it's worked out for me so far. We'll see for the next 30 to 50 years, but yeah.
That's actually how I started as well. I was interested in physics and mathematics, and it was just the way to go with electronics because it's a good combination of both, I would say. Yeah. And I didn't even know what to expect. I just went into it, and it was great. I think it was a very good coincidence that all this happened.
I feel the exact same way. Some of my friends have changed careers. I'm in my 30s, and a couple of my friends have changed careers a couple times already. And, we sit down, we're drinking beers and talking. And I feel so grateful, but also just I feel kind of like a doink just for saying I got so lucky that I chose right. It was just, it was luck. I could have switched a couple times by now as well, but it's just, I got lucky that I chose correctly when I was 18. And some people don't have that. So, many people don't. Yeah, exactly. They don't, they choose for different reasons, and maybe they should just all choose electronics, maybe that's the real problem.
Yeah. No, that's the problem right now with many people I know. I went to school with. They're still searching, 5 years later, still beginning one lesson, then they don't like it, stop it there, go to another. And I think that already repeat 5 or 6 times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard.
Yeah. So you said you were really into the physics and the math inside of things. It seems like a lot of the beginner type videos as well, you try and stay away from the math. But do you think that eventually you're going to be working more towards into the advanced topics on side of things, or do you find yourself doing a lot of complicated math day-to-day type things for your videos that maybe you don't show?
I do a lot of math type things, but because the circuit has to work in the end.
Yes.
So it's pretty much always behind the scenes. I calculate this, and then all kinds of different formulas. But I don't think I want to put it too much in the video. Maybe with another series, I start a video series, maybe more advanced stuff.
Yeah. Right.
There, I wouldn't mind putting lots of mathematics into that. But for the normal videos, something like that, I keep that out because in the end, if you go by yourself into detail with the things I try to teach people, they go into all this mathematical stuff by themselves. I think it's better this way instead of me just trying to shove in all this stuff in, 5 or 6 minutes, how long my videos are.
Right.
So I think I'm gonna keep it that way for now.
No, that's a good call too. I think that a lot of people, when I ask them, have you thought about doing electronics? They say, well, no, I'm no good at math. And then it's like, well, I don't know though. Like sometimes you're right. Sometimes there are formulas, but a lot of times it's just like it's there is the application of math, but it's not necessarily like I'm not doing derivatives or integrals on a daily basis. It's more internalizing the concepts, like understanding how, an integral is talking, if you're talking about a capacitive circuit, yes, there are integrals involved in talking about charge over time, but it's really more about, I more visualize, charge filling up a bucket type of thing, or talking about that kind of stuff. And it's not really math, it's just mathematical concepts. So it's tough, but it's like most of the time I'm like, it's not really math. It's there. Yes, there's math, but it's not like, you don't need to be like a math whiz. You just need to be a little bit fluent in it, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. But the problem is, in the end, you have to pass the exam in the university, and that's then the problem with those people.
Right. Yeah. No. That's true. Yeah. Especially if they wanted to do it for a job type of thing. Do you see a future where universities are less important? I mean, obviously you've had this duale I don't know how to say
duale studium.
Duale studium. Do you see a future where it's more practical only, or I mean, what's your view on education into the future?
Oh, good question. I think I like it the way it is. Yeah, it is pretty good.
I mean, your program sounds like very awesome, actually. I would love to do that kind of thing. Or I think that would have been very helpful.
Well, it's actually a new thing. Like, it wasn't that popular. Like, if you go back 10 years, like, nobody would have known what you mean. But, like, 5 or 6 years ago, like, it became popular with many companies. Like, I think every big company offers das duale Studium.
So is it beneficial because they get like assistance on hiring assistants for hiring people, or is it just a good way to recruit people, or what?
I would say it brings in older people. Like the problem nowadays is you've got 2 types of schools in Germany. Okay, now I have to say even more German words.
Okay, that's okay. I'm going to get these words written down for me and typed to me soon. So
okay, so it's basically Mittelschule or Gymnasium. And in the Mittelschule, it goes for 10 years in total. So when you're done with it, you're 16 years old. And when you come from such a school, you're not allowed to study at a university. You only can, let's say, you can only get a job. Like I already said, like you do the theory and practical together and do eine Ausbildung, like you already said. And the problem is you're only 16 years old and let's say 2 years don't sound like much, because in the Gymnasium you do 2 years more, but and then you're 18 years old and can go to university. But many companies don't like it with these 16 years old, because 2 years do a lot in the aspect of
maturity, and it's just
maturity,
that is a very formative age, I think, that hiring an 18-year-old versus hiring a 16-year-old. Yeah, sure. That's a big difference.
And the way this duale Studium is that higher educated people get brought to companies, because, if you want to choose a person who's 16 years old and isn't sometimes really not that smart, or you get an 18-year-old person do the same job at the end, because they also learn the job but study along the way. A company would obviously go for the 18-year-old and have no problems with them, instead of a 16-year-old who might think about something else.
They're still 18 years old. I mean, come on.
But yeah, of course,
right.
If you want to compare it, sometimes,
yes. Yeah, I see what you mean. Okay, no, that's interesting that there's different schools as well. That's that going forwards. That's I think it's a model that should be at least considered other places. I think that's actually really quite interesting. So we'll see.
Okay.
Speaking of going forward, we should probably wrap this up. But I have to ask, are you willing to give a preview of what you're most excited about, your next video that you're most excited about?
Sorry. I have to turn back because I've got my ideas written on my whiteboard.
Aha, yes, okay.
Okay, I think I've got 12 of them right now written out.
Okay.
But what am I excited about? That's a good question. Like, I think in the next month or two, it's not gonna be the biggest stuff like the longboard, or I did a big LED matrix, which was a lot of work. Not something like that, but let's say it's gonna involve a single board computer, but it's not a Raspberry Pi.
Okay. Very cool. Okay, so something with a single board computer, something accessible, I'm guessing.
Yeah, a fun
one. Okay, good. We will keep an eye out for that. Well, thank you so much for telling us all about. I mean, obviously, I didn't even expect to ask about the German education stuff, but that's been very interesting. And obviously, all of your videos are very, very awesome and very impressive to watch. So I highly recommend people. You also have a Patreon page where people should go and support you. What is the address for that? Is that just Patreon?
I think it's Patreon, but if you go to the search bar, you can just go Great Scott. It's not hard to find. It's actually in the video description of every one of my videos. Okay,
perfect. Yeah, that's good.
Because that's what keeps the show going in the end.
Right. And you also have a Twitter, yes? Twitter.com?
It's at Great Scott's Lab, I think.
Yep, that looks right.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, hey, it was great talking to you. And like I said, everyone should definitely go check out all these videos. And we'll keep watching.
Okay. Thanks for
being on. All right. Bye.
Bye.